Jon Stewart, man, the guy, I don't think he could figure out who he really is or what direction he wants to go in, right? It seems like he doesn't really like Kamala. He definitely didn't like Joe. And apparently he's offended by the media operation that props them both up, right? Somehow, without recognizing that he is a massive, massive part of that operation. And he has been for a really, really long time. The only thing he knows for sure, the only thing that I think has stayed consistent is Jon Stewart hates conservatives. Doesn't even know why, but he knows that's one thing he can definitely stand on, right? But every once in a while, he picks the wrong one. And one of those wrong ones to pick on, for anyone to pick on, is Ben Shapiro. And this is a pretty funny guy.
So this past week, I was told I made a brief cameo on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I responded in a somewhat panicked manner. Have I time traveled to 2003? Where are my children?
What year is it?
Apparently, I had not time traveled. My children are fine. Jon, on the other hand, not so fine. See, this year, Jon unceremoniously returned to The Daily Show after completely falling apart on Apple Plus with a show he called The Problem with Jon Stewart. I'm going to assume it didn't work because people already know the problem with Jon Stewart. He's 61 years old and still doesn't know most basic things, but pretends he's smart by making the same obnoxious, snarky faces my 10-year-old sometimes makes. More on that later. First, let's watch the clip.
Do you have anything else that could denigrate all of Kamala Harris's accomplishments by suggesting it's merely the power of the Jezebel?
It is relevant when a young candidate tries to sleep her way into politics and into power. And that is what it appears Kamala Harris did.
She's never earned or won anything. Like she was legitimately handed her original posts in California state government because she was sleeping with Willie Brown. And then he backed her in her race for San Francisco DA.
Okay, Squeaks. Listen. I don't know, guys. You're being awfully subtle here.
Listen, I'm fine with squeaks. It's nicer than half the stuff people say about me, and I will be the first to admit my voice sounds like a Smurf with a head cold. At the same time, I am 5'9", and Jon Stewart is a midgetly 5'7". He's also a complete cynical boob. By this, I mean that his entire game is to ignore issues in favor of cheap insults. That's literally what he does, like all the time. There are never any arguments. What's amazing is that Jon Stewart is largely responsible for having turned all of American politics into that exact same game. So let's actually jump in the time machine all the way back to 2004, when, that guy had a daily show. A young Jon Stewart appeared with liberal Paul Begala and bow-tied much younger Tucker Carlson on a show called CNN's Crossfire. Now, you might not remember Crossfire. This was a show that featured people from either side of the aisle talking about the issues on CNN. I know, sounds crazy, but it was on the air every day. And Jon Stewart hated that. Here he was, being an asshole.
I made a special effort to come on the show today because I have privately, amongst my friends, and also in occasional newspapers and television shows, mentioned this show as being bad. And I felt that wasn't fair, and I should come here and tell you that it's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say,
wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Stop. Stop hurting America.
Okay, now
and come work for us, because we, as the people.
How do you pay?
The people, not well.
Better than CNN, I'm sure.
But you can sleep at night. See, the thing is, we need your help. Right now you're helping the politicians and the corporations, and we're left out there to mow our lawns.
You just said we're too rough on them when they make mistakes.
No, you're not too rough on them. You're part of their strategies. You're partisan, what do you call it, hacks.
Now, note the critique here. Crossfire was bad. It was, how do you say, hurting America. Why? Because while Jon Stewart had what he called civilized discourse on his program, they were partisan, how do you call it? Hacks. All politicians, according to Jon Stewart, were lying about their arguments, said the great, mighty, moral Jon Stewart. Only Jon Stewart was honest with you. And you could tell he was honest because he was a comedian who made funny faces and was honest enough to admit he wasn't going to even try to ask anybody a tough question. Honesty. And also he said Tucker Carlson was a dick and that he was 35 and wore a bow tie. Well, now Jon Stewart is 61 and is a dick and wears the same outfits he wore when he was 35. Which, if you're keeping score back home, was back when I was 14 years old and in high school. That is 7 years younger than my father. He's still trying to play cool like Steve Buscemi on 30 Rock.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
He's no longer Michael Air Jordan. He's Michael Jordan on the Wizards. His routine hasn't changed. He's an actual honest-to-God partisan hack who undermines civilized discourse. He holds 0 positions that are disapproved by the Democratic Party elite. He makes arguments that are specious and empty and stupid. And then he plays a clip, and then he makes a funny face. But the thing is, that's because Jon Stewart won. See, he showed that the safest pathway to success is to be a clown, but a plausibly deniable clown. So CNN doesn't have political debates anymore. They stopped all that. You're not going to have Tucker Carlson versus Paul Begala. You'll just have a bunch of people who agree with each other. Now, half the anchors are doing bad Jon Stewart imitations from 2004. Play clip, make funny face. Don't take the argument seriously. Don't bring facts. Easier to throw out an insult or a rubbery smile. See, Jon Stewart's a coward. He's always been a coward. If he had the courage of his convictions, he wouldn't put on the clown nose every time he's questioned about his politics. Every time somebody asks him a serious question, he goes, I'm just a comedian. Instead, he might remove the squirting rose from his lapel when it's time for one of his shallow and idiotic hot takes. That guy runs away from actual political argumentation faster than he ran away from his birth name. Too Jewish, you know. Really courageous, Mr. Leibowitz. Well, here's the truth. Jon Stewart did win the war. He converted all political media into tired one-liners and dumb mugging. Honest conversation across the aisle, which is what Crossfire actually was, can now only be found online. And so we invite Jon Stewart on this show anytime, unfiltered, to have an honest conversation about his own role in destroying America and making it worse. We need his help. Live, so no one can edit it and just make dumb faces.
That is absolute smashdown and so spot on, incredibly spot on. Shapiro, he always nails it, but he definitely nails it on Jon Stewart because Jon Stewart really is the perfect caricature of the modern day Democrat. And Ben's right. The guy really is the original. He is patient freaking zero for the unserious, condescending, unintelligent rubber stamp for the machine that most of these Democrat shills have become. And he made a great point. You know, Jon Stewart really is everything he said years ago on Crossfire. It's actually incredible. It is so freaking spot on. And thankfully, he's personally become so irrelevant and so unoriginal that even he can only stomach doing his own show once a week, just like Rachel Maddow, you know, another destroyer of worlds. You know, there's only enough material for these people for Monday nights, for one night a week, which is remarkable in its own right. But that's just my take, guys. I thought you'd appreciate seeing that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, don't forget to be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.